Hitler's generals often ridiculed him as a charlatan, yet no physician spent more time by the Führer's side than Dr. Theodore Morris. For many years, Hitler trusted him implicitly without raising doubts. However, when the war concluded, the doctor closest to Hitler found himself facing an unexpected outcome. This is the unusual tale of Hitler's personal physician and how he managed to avoid punishment while so many others from the Nazi elite were held accountable. Theodore Morris hardly appeared destined to become Adolf Hitler's most trusted caregiver. Born in the year 1886 in a modest German town, he pursued medical studies in Grenoble, Paris, and Munich. He eventually specialized in obstetrics and gynecology. By 1913, he had earned his doctorate and served as a ship doctor, followed by a role as a battalion medical officer during the First World War. After the conflict ended in 1918, he opened a private practice in Berlin. Partly funded by his wife's fortune, his clinic was outfitted with cutting-edge medical equipment, attracting wealthy patients seeking rapid remedies for skin and digestive problems. Morris's fame grew to the point where he turned down invitations to become the personal doctor to the Shah of Persia and the King of Romania. His blend of traditional medicine and experimental cures sparked mixed reactions. However, it was precisely this unorthodox style that captured Hitler's attention. In the year 1935, Henry Hoffmann, the Führer's personal photographer, was experiencing severe stomach pain. Theodore Morris succeeded in treating him when others had failed. Henry Hoffmann became Morris's most vocal supporter, claiming he had discovered a physician capable of achieving what the rest of the medical community could not. This introduction transformed Morris's fate. Yet within Hitler's inner circle, Morris was not universally respected. Albert Spencer dismissed him as careless, and Henry Himmels once tested his Vita-Molten solution, suspecting it contained methamphetamine. The rivalry between Morris and Dr. Karl Bryant, who had been Hitler's personal doctor since 1934, was intense and deeply personal. Some whispered that Morris prioritized financial gain over patient care. Then came a turning point that changed everything. In 1936, Hitler was once more plagued by severe stomach pains that no one could alleviate. Morris made a daring claim. He could succeed where all others had failed. He prescribed a regimen of vitamins and Mutaflor, an experimental probiotic strain of E. coli at the time. The outcome appeared miraculous. Within a few days, the stomach pain subsided, and a persistent leg rash began to clear. For Hitler, this was undeniable evidence of Morris's exceptional ability. Almost instantly, the doctor was welcomed into Hitler's closest circle at Berchtesgaden, becoming part of his personal household. Hitler's dependence on Morris grew rapidly, to the extent that he would stop his personal train mid-journey for injections. Any expressed doubts were brushed aside without hesitation. Hitler's appreciation for Theodore Morris's loyalty and care went well beyond mere words. He honored his doctor with the honorary title of professor, awarded him the highly respected Golden Party Badge, and also gifted him the Knight's Cross of the War Merit Cross. Morris used this close relationship to build a prosperous business empire. His Vita-Molten supplement was distributed through the German labor front, while his Rusla powder, promoted as a delousing product, secured numerous buyers within the Wehrmacht. Alongside his annual salary of 60,000 Reichsmarks, these enterprises brought him an estimated fortune of 7 million Reichsmarks. Those critical within the Führer's headquarters saw this as evidence that the doctor's injections were not the only thing being exchanged for financial gain. Morris's true talent was as much psychological as it was medical. He conveyed unwavering confidence, providing Hitler with reassurance when others only sowed doubt, making himself indispensable. Yet exactly what Morris administered to the Führer each day and how it would affect him was soon to become one of the most contested parts of their connection. Theodore Morris kept an exceptionally precise medical diary, recording every substance given to Hitler, and the list was astonishing. Over their nearly 10 years of collaboration, Hitler received 74 different substances in 28 distinct mixtures, administered via pills, injections, and various other methods. These substances range from sedatives and potent stimulants to pills containing toxic chemicals. Among the most notable substances were three in particular. First, Eucadol, an opioid similar to morphine, which relieved pain but posed a significant risk of addiction. Then came Pervitin, a stimulant based on methamphetamine used to keep Hitler awake and alert during long meetings and briefings. Lastly, orshikrin, an extract derived from bovine testosterone and the pituitary gland, which was marketed as both an energizing tonic and an aphrodisiac at the time. Theodore Morris's influence extended beyond Hitler himself. In March of 1939, during the German occupation of Czechoslovakia, Czech President Emil Harris collapsed amid tense negotiations. Morris promptly administered stimulants, likely containing methamphetamine, reviving him enough to resume talks favorable to Germany. This incident demonstrated how Morris's medical interventions could impact political events. However, Morris's power within the Nazi medical establishment had boundaries. In May of 1942, when Reinhard Heydrich was severely injured in an assassination attempt, Morris recommended using the new antibiotic penicillin. Karl Bryant, chief physician to Henry Himmels, ignored the advice and refused the treatment. Heydrich succumbed to infection a week later, proving that even Hitler's preferred doctor could be overridden by political conflicts. Doubts about Morris's treatments increased. In September of 1944, Dr. Giesing examined Morris's so-called anti-gas pills and found they contained dangerous substances such as strychnine and belladonna. Both substances were poisonous when taken in large amounts. To verify his discoveries, Giesing experimented on himself and suffered severe illness. Faced with this proof, Hitler would not question his doctor. Instead, he dismissed Giesing, Bryant, and Hanskell von Hasselbach from his medical team while retaining Theodore Morris by his side. This loyalty remained firm even as Hitler's health declined sharply and his dependence on daily injections and medication grew extreme. Many scholars now consider that Morris's complicated drug protocol might have sped up Hitler's physical deterioration and perhaps influenced his mental condition during the last years. By the final months of the conflict, Hitler's reliance on Morris's treatments had become complete, and this dependence accompanied them both inside the harsh confines of the Führer bunker. Even while Soviet artillery shook the ground above the bunker, Hitler insisted on receiving his daily injections and pills. His health was rapidly failing, but Morris continued to be his essential support. In the cramped bunker amid non-stop shelling, the doctor's role assumed a grim new significance. His medical kit now contained items intended for purposes far beyond mere healing. On April 20th, 1945, Hitler's 56th birthday, the Führer commanded key personnel, including Morris, to leave the city. After nearly a decade, the bond between doctor and patient had ended. Hitler no longer required routine checkups or treatments. What he sought now was something far more definitive. Before departing, Theodore Morris performed his final duty for Hitler's inner circle. He supplied poison capsules to Eva Braun, as well as to Joseph and Magda Goebbels. Several other members of the bunker staff also asked for the same. The physician who once boasted about curing Hitler's stomach troubles was now providing means for them to evade capture by Soviet forces. On the 23rd of April, Morris left Berlin aboard a small plane from the Fliegerstaffel des Führer. With him went almost 10 years of secrets, including the details of Hitler's health history, his medication schedule, and his physical decline. Amid the chaos of Germany's downfall, blending in with countless soldiers and civilians fleeing west was relatively easy. American forces apprehended Morris on the 18th of May, 1945. He was detained at the former Buchenwald concentration camp and underwent intense questioning regarding his time with Hitler. One investigator later described his unkempt appearance, overweight build, and obvious poor hygiene. The Allies sought detailed information on Hitler's health, the precise drugs administered, and the extent to which Morris may have influenced major decisions during the war. Few individuals possessed deeper knowledge of Hitler's private life than he did. Then came an unforeseen development. After weeks of interrogation, the Americans released him without charges or trial. Despite his close association with Hitler, the prosecutors saw no firm legal basis to prosecute him. His situation highlighted the difficulties surrounding justice in the post-war period. Being part of the inner circle did not automatically imply criminal responsibility, especially when involvement stemmed from a professional duty rather than direct violent actions. Theodore Morris was released without charge. However, for other Nazi physicians, freedom was much harder to obtain. Dr. Karl Bryant encountered a drastically different outcome. As Hitler's chief medical officer and a key figure in the government's sanctioned deadly medical program, Bryant was convicted of crimes against humanity during the Nuremberg doctors' trial. He personally supervised medical strategies that led to thousands of deaths. The difference between Bryant's execution and Morris's liberation was strikingly clear. Prosecutors considered Bryant a man directly accountable for enforcing fatal medical programs. On the other hand, Morris was viewed as a personal physician whose impact arose from daily care rather than conducting state-mandated killings. Both served closely with Hitler, yet legally their degrees of guilt were worlds apart. Despite pleas from fellow doctors, General Lucius D. Clay denied Bryant clemency, stating plainly, "I am unable to grant clemency." For the Allied powers, Bryant's execution delivered a firm warning. Those orchestrating deadly medical campaigns would face severe punishment. When evaluating Morris's case, prosecutors adopted a different stance. His detailed knowledge of Hitler's health rendered him valuable to Allied intelligence. His position as Hitler's personal doctor offered a distinct perspective, separating his legal responsibility from that of Bryant's. As a physician rather than a policymaker or organizer of mass murders, it was challenging to demonstrate criminal intent. The evidence indicated that he had benefited from his role and contributed to fostering Hitler's addiction to drugs. Yet, according to the legal criteria of that era, this was insufficient for a conviction on war crimes allegations. After his release, Theodore Morris quietly returned to Bavaria. His health worsened swiftly due to the stress of interrogation and losing his position. His standing in the medical community collapsed, and former associates distanced themselves from him. On May 26, 1948, only a few months after Karl Bryant's execution, Morris passed away with little attention, his death barely acknowledged in a world that once feared his sway over the Nazi leader. The doctor's trial proceeded to establish the Nuremberg Code, a set of guidelines that transform medical ethics globally, including the requirement for voluntary consent from research participants and the duty to minimize harm. Morris's narrative reveals how ordinary professionals can gradually become entangled in serving perilous regimes, motivated by personal ambition and chance. He began as a respected physician catering to affluent clients, but ultimately enabled one of history's most devastating figures. That concludes our story. Thank you for watching. If this account intrigued you, be sure to watch What Happened to Hitler's Bodyguards After World War II. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Subscribe and tap the notification bell so you won't miss any future World War II videos. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.